Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello all. So, welcome to the fifth lecture. So, in the last lecture we had talked about the various guidelines related to inclusive planning and universal design which are applicable worldwide, and we have also talked about the various conventions globally which have happened, and India's role or India's commitment to this global vision of inclusion. So, this lecture we will be discussing about the various standards, guidelines, schemes and movements which have acts also which are available in India or which have happened in India. So, topic National Guidelines on Inclusive Planning and Universal Design, and so next what we have. So, I mean just before getting into this, if we can just quickly go through some data on disability as a recap. So, we know the total percentage, that is 2.68% as per 2011 census of this disability in seeing, in hearing and in movement. They are maximum of the currently identified 8 codes in as per census of India. What we have seen that if you age group wise distribution, that we see that 0 to 10 years, 20 to 30 years, 60 plus. So, 60 plus definitely they are more, but also I mean it is kind of spread over all the ages. So, I mean so number of the children who are disabled is quite high. So, these call for, I mean, or rather this establishes the need for inclusive education and all. We have some more statistics which talk about literate, illiterate. As you see that the number of literate people who are disabled is less compared to the number of literate who are not disabled. So, that means there is some kind of a denial. So, all these similarly for employment we have similar data. So, all these suggest that there is a disparity, there is a social disparity. Now, let us see that what we have in this background, what we have done and what we are doing. So, again just to orient you, now in 1995 that was the initiation, when the first act that we had, the Person with Disabilities Equal Opportunities and Protection of Rights and Full Participation Act 1995. So, and that immediately led to formulation of first set of guidelines by CPWD in 1998 for guidelines for and space standards for barrier free built environment. Then came UNCRPD, then was after that, I mean in 2015, that was a nationwide campaign, that is the Accessible India campaign or Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan. We are going to talk about that in great detail, because that has been I mean spreading the movement of this across the country. Revision of the National Building Code happened. The Right of the Person with the Disabilities Act 2016 replaces or rather modifies in 1995 Act. 2021 the harmonized guideline by MoHUA, that is the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, CPW, and it was guided by CPWD, and the inclusive city framework, that is at the urban level. So, both were the initiatives in 2021 which are still applicable. These we are going to, in this part, I mean harmonized guideline and ICF we are going to talk about later in our subsequent lectures, because we are going to discuss in details about the technical content, but here we are going to talk about mainly the AIC and the RPWD and also MBC. So, the Accessible India campaign. So, the AIC aligns with the India's commitment to the United Nations Conventions on Right of Person with Disabilities, and it aims to create an inclusive society. So, it is a nationwide initiative and it has got few verticals. 3 verticals were mainly identified, that is the transport system accessibility, ICT or ecosystem accessibility, and last but not the least the built environment accessibility. So, I just talked about that the the nationwide initiatives. So, what has happened across the country? So, the built environment accessibility ensures that all buildings, public spaces, infrastructure are accessible to people with disabilities. I mean including ramps wherever requirement, accessible toilets, tactile paving. As we can see, these are some of the good initiatives which have happened as a result of AIC, like the hospitals in Bhubaneswar. We have the accessible toilet, we have accessible public buildings, we have the accessible ATM, we have the polling booths which are accessible, the schools, the accessible temple, accessible the sensory park. So these are, so what we can see, a diversity what we can see. Now, these are just to give, these are just only few examples. We will have proper, I think I already told you in the intro video that we will be having good proper sessions, full sessions on good practices that we have done in the India, because we learn from good practices. So we will be discussing, having more and more examples. Inclusion in the transportation, accessible drop-offs, accessible toilets, accessible metro stations. As you can see that the tactile tiles guiding a person with vision impairment to the lift, accessible bus, accessible railway stations, low floor buses, accessible parking. You can see this is the signage which denotes an accessible parking. Yeah, ICT ecosystem, that is the information communication technology. Web accessibility, web, then braille signage, and sometimes this Mera Mitra website, which is specially meant for person with disability. And also you can also have the manual helpers, which helps in communication, because communication is not only digital. You can also you can have a human assistance to enhance or make easy the digital communication. So these are the salient features of these. These are also taken from the AIC website. That is the features of the accessibility in the built environment. So these are categorized into under two broad heads, that outdoor features as well as indoor features. So now accessible routes, parking, accessible entry to the building. Just imagine a person walking in. Imagine a person who is entering a building premises and then just getting in and trying to use all these. So now accessible, starting from route, accessible reception, corridors and tactile flooring, lifts with braille signage and auditory commands, so that that a person with vision impairment can know when his particular floor has arrived, braille and staircases with durable handrails, toilets, accessible drinking water, auditory and visual signage. So now we will again come back to these points when we discuss the harmonized guidelines in detail, which have been developed upon these lines. Now these are, though the slide is not very legible, but this is a screenshot taken again from the Accessible India website. This is a list of manuals and guidelines which are available in the country. This kind of talks of all sectors, starting from sports, the bus, the railways, the public places, the footpaths, roads, everything. So these are all downloadable, and the link will be, I will share the link when I give the contents. So these links you can download these, but anyway, as I am telling you that from Accessible India campaign website, if you just simply go to the AIC website, all these guidelines can be downloaded, which are very exhaustive, because it specifically talks about the particular buildings. Now just I forgot to mention one thing, that when you talk about these ICT ecosystem, this kind of attempts to increase or enhance the proportion of accessible and usable public documents and websites that meet these internationally accepted accessibility standards. So, that means conversion of the public documents which are published as every year, as you know that all government institutions, they come up with these annual reports and all. So, they have to follow this ISO standards, ISO criteria on information technology, which are the current, there is something called a W3C or Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.0. So, which specify the standards. So, any public document should refer to these standards. And also the other other attempts under this ICT would be enhancing the pool of sign language interpreters, enhancing the proportion of the daily captioning and sign language interpretation of the public television news programs. So, all these are to be included under this ICT. Now, there has been a lot of progress in this under ICT, and so like accessibility audits have been conducted, because now what I mean by accessibility audit is that if you want to provide a solution, you need to understand the problem. So, accessibility audits are kind of identifying the barriers in the built and open environment with the help of proper scientific checklist. So, under this AIC, accessibility audits have been conducted in several large number of the government buildings. And so, also government buildings have been, many government buildings have been retrofitted and equipped with accessibility features. What is mean by retrofitting is that, I mean, if you are, you have these accessibility standards, guidelines, but if you are constructing a new building, then you start from scratch, it is easy. But if you already have a building which do not comply to the standards, is possible, right? Because many of our government buildings are old. So, you have to have some retrofitting strategies, that is include some additional features, accessibility features, so that they can be made visitable or can do some kind of reasonable accommodation. We have discussed all these steps. Might be difficult to make these buildings universally designed, but at least you can have some reasonable accommodation and visitable solutions. Public buses have been made accessible, and also the many websites have also been made. The central and state government websites have been made accessible. Okay, coming to some the other guidelines and manuals, like this also Department of Public Works Department. So, there are, you can just access this website, this Accessible India campaign. So, this will take you to all these what I showed here. So, this is the website for that. Simply just you can type Accessible India campaign and you will be guided to these guidelines. It talks about all these aspects. Okay. So, sorry. So, next is Right of Person with the Disabilities Act 2016. So, why it is very special is, it considers all categories of disabilities and all sectors of planning, and also it includes that awareness generation. It gives a lot of emphasis on awareness generation on this very important issue. So, there are I think first I discussed this. So, these are the 21 categories of disabilities which I have been talking of, mentioning since our first lecture, that currently, as I told, that 2011 census talks about 8 codes. So, these are now the 21 categories of disabilities which are listed under the Right to Person with Disabilities Act 2016. Blindness, low vision, leprosy cured person, hearing impairment, locomotor, intellectual, mental illness, autism, cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, chronic neurological condition, specific learning disabilities, multiple sclerosis, speech and language disability, thalassemia, hemophilia, sickle cell disease. So, these are all physiological problems, multiple disabilities, acid attack victim, Parkinson, dwarfism. So, I mean, not to really quote it, but we talked when we were discussing about the ICIDH, when impairment was defined. So, it talked about any kind of limitation, loss or malfunctioning of any organ or part of the body, because all these any severe disease which is a chronic disease will permanently impact a person's ability to perform. So, that is why many of the diseases are also included in the disability, because that limit your overall your capability. Now, so these are some of the sections or articles which are important. And now, article 40 talks about the general rules on standards on physical transport, information communication and appropriate technologies. Article 41 specifically focus upon mobility, railway stations, mobility issues, railway station, bus stops, airports and roads. 42 talk about the suitable measures to be taken to ensure all contents on the media level, that is the accessible content, that all contents are available in audio, print and electronic media and in accessible format. Say they should be having a person with disabilities have access to electronic media. They should by providing audio description, sign language interpretation and closed captioning. So, that is the article 42 talk about. 43 talked about product development, accessible useful products. So, someone who is blind, I mean how can you have products designed for them? It's not only just wheelchairs which are I mean everything, I mean a wheelchair which might be electronically operated wheelchair, or those are special aids and aids and appliances, but other than that any normal consumer good, how you can make them useful and accessible to all. So, this is mainly of the product design 43. And 44 talks about the stresses upon implementation, because because we have acts but we need to implement. So, it talks about article 44 talks about mandatory observance of accessibility norm, but like if by not granting construction permit or certificate of completion, what should be the punitive measures, what will happen if there is any non-conformance to the accessibility rules, and that is talks about the penalty and all. So, this is what these are the avenues which are being touched upon by RPWD Act, that is the daily activities, livelihood opportunities, education and health, basic rights for person with disabilities, regulation. We were discussing about the ADA, American Disability Act. So, and we have talked about the various sectors. We talked about employment, we talked about education, we talked about housing. So, I think we have so if you try to relate it, that how these sectors or these sections, I think I mentioned it then also that when we talk about RPWD Act, you can probably will be able to draw parallels and see that how we are developing the Act, how we have developed the Acts in line with the global standards. So, these are the Rights of Person with a Disability Act. As we can see that if you can see the building typologies, all building types are, so when we talk about built environment, I am repeating because this is particularly important for the architects and the civil engineers, of course, because they are finally implementing, finally constructing. That built environment means categorically talks about all types of buildings, residential, commercial, public buildings. If you just open NBC, you would see all these types like building types, this transportation, manufacturing, recreational, agricultural, special area. So, all categories of the built environment. they need to be accessible. So when we talk about, when we say built environment, we mean all of these. Now the NBC, or the National Building Code, which is known to all architects. So there are certain sections in the NBC also which talk about accessibility. Like these sections are given here. Like part 3, section 13, it talks about the accessibility in the built environment for elders and persons with disabilities. The sections can be referred to. I am sure any architect would be aware of NBC, but there are specific requirements on universal design also within the NBC. Though we have more compact guidelines now, but NBC also talks about the accessibility issues. It talks about accessibility, safety, functionality, inclusivity, because like NBC mandates specific requirement for ramps, elevators, accessible restrooms, which takes care of accessibility. It talks about fire safety, structural integrity. So it talks about safety. It talks about the needs of the different users, such as clear signage, adequate lighting, and ergonomic design elements. So it talks about the functionality, and definitely it also talks about inclusivity, because if you conform to all these, it will definitely have an inclusive environment. So this is the another annexure, that is the clause 4.6.1 you have, where it goes for the talks about the site planning and the development. The sections are mentioned here. So for this is just to give you an idea, because it's not possible to explain the entire set of guidelines here. So this course is aimed to, or is will try to talk about the available guidelines, that where you can look for what, because so that because you can just whenever you require to follow certain guidelines, you can refer to the adequate standards, the exact place, know where to go to. This is the next one, that is talks about designing of the accessible parking spaces. So these are all what we have in the NBC. Yes. Now this is the indicators for child friendly local development. Now as we have this we talked about UNICEF. So this is a set of guidelines, with very recent one in 2016, which came up by the NIUA, National Institute of Urban Affairs, where they have talked about, they have certain indicators which are required for ensuring child friendly development, where children can live, study, play, and feel safe, and can communicate safely. So certain indicators were there. Let's go to those. Now these indicators are again coming under 4 broad parameters, like the built environment, services and facilities, safety and mobility, and then ambient environment and disaster management. So under built environment, it will be housing, school and open spaces, so mainly which children react to. The services and facilities will be the physical infrastructure, social infrastructure, and special facilities, like maybe the scope for online learning. So the social infrastructure may be where they play, or they sing, or they perform their or they participate in extracurricular activities. So all these spaces. Safety and mobility. Now here I would like this traffic safety, mobility. Here I would like to talk about something. A very recent concern in the safety and mobility are the school zones, because we are seeing this as an increasing threat in many of our cities, that the drop off points or near the schools are becoming very unsafe, because there are a lot of vehicles, different categories, buses, sometimes school buses, personal vehicles, 2-wheelers, 4-wheelers. They are all coming together while the school is starting and where the school is breaking, and then they are creating a chaotic situation in the school, near the school gate. So this design of the school zones for the safety and the security of the children is becoming a very important concern in nowadays the city planning. So that's why this child friendly this is an important way here. Ambient environment and disaster management, I think that is self-explanatory. Some other codes. So this one is the now these are IRCs. Now all these are given here, like this one is the IRC 124-2017, which are the BRT, that is the Bus Rapid Transit Course design guidelines. So, the factors of intervention are footpaths, pedestrian infrastructure, passenger access, bus interior, station design, driver training. We talked about the social barrier, we talked about attitudinal barrier. So, how a driver or a helper should behave or react when a person with disability or an elderly person has boarded or is trying to board the bus. What are the problems he or she might be having inside? So, that's the many transport companies like we have seen in Delhi, that they have this as a part of this driver training. They have one module on this inclusive design or the safety part or the particularly for the vulnerable group. So, driver training is a very important component, and of course, the passenger information system. How you can be informed about a bus which is coming, when is it coming? So, that involves intervention at the bus stop. Now, once you are inside the bus and you are maybe sitting comfortably on the seat which is designated for vulnerable people, but say a person who is blind, how does he or she know when is the stop arriving? Either will be constantly panicking that he shouldn't be overcarried, or need to constantly poke the person sitting by his side and ask that when is the stop coming, or be dependent on the helper or the driver so that he is intimated. So, what should be this passenger information system? We will discuss this in detail in our transportation lecture, but just to talk about that what it deals with. Guidelines for pedestrian design facilities. It touches upon the walkways and pathways, curbs, dropped curbs, tactile pavers, pedestrian crossing, grade separated crossing. Now, grade separated crossing needs to be accessible, because if you just have a overbridge or a pedestrian foot over bridge with steep flight of stairs, nobody is going to go there. So, I mean, and that's why what we see that they become, and also if you have a subway which is unsafe, which is not where there is no light, nobody is going to risk his or her life and get inside. So, you have to provide accessible and usable, user-friendly, grade separated pedestrian crossings. Ramps and steps, elevators and lift wherever, because if you have a proper foot over bridge with an elevator or a lift, definitely it's a good option, people will use them. Street furniture and hawker, bollards, lighting, washrooms and toilets. Bollards, I think I have shown you many examples that how bollards can be a measure to ensure safety, protect people, protect the pedestrian from the vehicle zones. At the same time, how the improper placement of the bollards can also be a barrier and prevent the wheelchairs from moving into the footpath. Adequate lighting. So, these are this is the course of practice for road signs. Here the sectors of intervention will be signs for person with disabilities. If we remember that we talked about perceptible information as one of the universal design principles. There we talked about all these pictograms, we talked about the proper contrast between the background and the foreground. We talked about multilingual signage, prop arrows, so clarity and legibility. So, all these, so this we have a full code on signs. So, and now these take whenever these signs are designed, they take I would say guidance from those visionary principles. Okay, now this is a program which I want to talk about, basic, that is building accessible, safe and inclusive Indian cities. So, which is a National Institute of Urban Affairs initiative under the aegis of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. So, which talks about inclusion, integration and innovation. Now, with the idea of built environment. So, they have covered every aspect: built environment, mobility, disaster, innovations, participatory governance, sanitation. So, these are the broad framework. Many initiatives have happened under this, like harmonized guideline was also under this initiative, supported by this initiative, not fully, but so this was but during this time it was happening. So, this is one. So, there was a shift from barrier free environment to universal accessibility, and it talks about all aspects of external element, internal element, information, building typologies, and also building operation and maintenance for existing buildings. And harmonized guideline provides a very exhaustive checklist for audits or accessibility audits, so that you can identify the barrier, because diagnosis is important for treatment. And the inclusive city framework, which is an IIT Kharagpur initiative, our department initiative, where we had come up with 6 sectors of inclusion, and which is accepted by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and is available in the website of National Ministry of Urban Affairs. We will be discussing this in detail, where it talks about the 6 sectors. The 6 sectors being housing, physical and social infrastructure, outdoor environment, transportation, livelihood, ICT, and the recreation and tourism. So, these are the 6 sectors, and under which there are 198 parameters, which we will be having separate sessions on inclusive city framework towards the end. Thank you.